That's true.
Okay. We are live, which just means that we are amongst our family now here in our very last live session of Working Writers Mastermind, except for some that are going to be coming down the line on our public channel. And so today is not going to be a formal teaching session. What it is going to be is all of your coaches, and Tony may pop in with us at some point as well. It's going to be all of your coaches kind of just talking about the model. We're going to be talking about some of the favorite things that we've learned over the years from one another, over the last year from one another, as well as the aspects of the model that we feel like we've gotten better in, the pieces that we feel like we're still working on. And I encourage all of our members who join us to feel free to pop into the chat and share as we're going through these questions. Just kind of the little bit of recap of where this all began. So really, I've been teaching aspects of the Working Writers model since 2010. And didn't formalize it really until 2023, into the 10 steps that eventually became, we have our all the kitties in the background that we're talking about in the chat. We have a lot of pet visitors. We didn't formalize the model into the 10 steps, which then became the 9 steps until 2023. And then June of 2024, Tony, who will hopefully be joining us here, was one of the first people I asked. I was like, hey, he had been a coaching client, and I was like, you're ready to actually be one of the coaches. And I was grateful that he joined. And I was like, if we're going to have coaches, let's have a bunch of coaches. And Tiffany and I were working together at the time. Chris and I had done a lot of shows together. So was super excited to have this incredibly comprehensive team of coaches. And so we've been coming to you as a group for the last year. Every week there's been something. Even in the weeks where we didn't have an official lesson, we sometimes had some other surprise for you. So we ended up with the 9-step Working Writers model, which is what we have today. It's an evergreen product that you can go through the 9 steps of the model and really learn how to take that hobby and turn it into a business. And so if you're joining us after this has already gone evergreen, this is what it's been about. And we hope at this point, oh my goodness, look who's with us. Hello, Tony. Yay.
Hello, how are you?
Oh my goodness.
Good. And we're so excited to have you with us. So all 4 of your Working Writers Mastermind coaches are here. And Tony, how long do we have you? Because I want to make sure that
I've got probably about 15, 20 minutes before my next meeting.
Awesome. So I think I'm going to let you kick us off then and talk about one of the things that we're talking about are, I want to hear what is the thing that maybe you've learned from each of your fellow coaches. You may end up being gone when we brag on you by that time, but what's something that maybe you've learned from each of your fellow coaches and through the model and through the Working Writers Mastermind?
Well, I tell you, there's a laundry list. Each of us have, and this is for all people. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Mine, I definitely, I've learned to understand them and I've accepted them. And everybody here on this team has provided resources or knowledge for me to learn from. Even before we joined this group, I remember the first time I met, I met Christopher and saw him at one of the conventions, and to see how he set up his booth and see how he's able to work with people as they're walking past his booth and how to pull them in and how to engage properly. I remember first time that Jerry asked me to sit on a panel and to be able to watch to see how she ran the panel and what kind of questions were being asked. And first time I met TJ Nickel, and we were in a booth together, and we both had fantasy. And it's like, how are we going to do this without competing? But there's such a wealth of knowledge out there from all the different authors I've met over time. And as opposed to being competitive, just simply learning from each other. I watch TJ Nichols on Facebook and all the time of all of her marketing and how she's able to promote stuff. I know that I'm terrible when it comes to book promotion of I've got a new book release. And it just, I do a terrible job with that. I do pretty good over the long haul because of the fact that they're all in a same series, and I've got my first book promoted, and eventually people get to the next book, and it works out great. But for the book launch, I've watched to see how she does stuff at conventions and how she's promoting it, getting people to the conventions, getting people to know about the new book that's coming out. Huge wealth of knowledge there. Christopher, and the stuff that I've learned from how he does, and I still got a lot to learn about this, but Kickstarter. I had no idea what any of that was about, and he's done so well with that. And he even allowed me to be part of one of those books and to watch how it works and how to promote it and how to make it worthwhile. If nothing else, between that and conventions and shows, huge wealth of knowledge there. I can't thank you enough, Christopher, to sit there and learn. Now I got to apply some of it on my own, which I haven't done yet, but at least now I'm learning and that's the key thing is you learn all these different attributes, and then you decide which pieces you want to do. Jerry, I've seen her do stuff that I thought I was good at, and she's just blown me away. Her ability to get in and make connections, unbelievable. She can get in there and I know that person. Oh yeah, I know that. I can get you to that person. And the wealth of her ability to go into even a brand new area and by the end of the convention know all the right people to make things happen. That's part of the business. It's not so all the stuff I've talked about. Did you know none of that is sitting down and actually writing? Um, that is another attribute that you need to learn too. But there's so much to this business that is above and beyond sitting down by yourself and just writing a story.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, well, you just covered like so much. So before you go, I want to tell you the one thing that I've learned most from you, and I'm like, we all have probably something, but it's not necessarily like the whole time lesson. It's the capacity planning thing. That has been it is probably still my weakest area, but it is also like I'm so much further along than before, I've been able to learn from you. And it's just to Tiffany and I were just talking yesterday about like, okay, we're there. We're at capacity. If somebody else needs us, it's like, cool, we're booking at such and such time because we don't have room. And it's very hard to say no to things in the writing community when you know that the work may be scarce later. We get afraid. We're like, oh, if I don't take this, then I won't get it offered to me down the line, or I might not make rent this month. Just little things. But really just valuing your sanity and Tony, you and I have talked a lot of times, like we're the old fogies in the group with grandkids and and different like stage and wanting to like share in our grandkids lives and stuff and be a part of that. And you're doing that, and I have like so much respect for that you've been able to still be passionate about your writing, but to find that hey, this is the priority. And for me, it's my family will always be my priority, but I don't always live that as well as I
Mhm.
should. And I've really valued that from you. So that's something that I would just like to say thank you to you for that. So for those of you catching this in watchbacks, to watch Tony's time management lesson, I highly recommend that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like that lesson resonated, I feel like will resonate with every creative that feels like they're juggling a million thousand things, and you break it down in such an easy, simple way where you're like, why am I not doing this? Like, you're like, this makes so much sense. And one of the things that I learned a lot from you too was the way you ask questions. They're never just surface level. You are able to like dig into information, and you want to get deeper, and you want more knowledge. And it made me want to also ask those questions and being like, I don't want the surface level information. I want the inside information, and I want to work into it, and I want to understand the full process, and I want that structure, and I want the details, right? Versus just accepting the baseline information. I wanted more and more. And it made me do more research than I already was. And also the way that you structured your budget, like your budget class too. Like, I came from finance, but the way that you budgeted, I was like, well, I don't have these categories on my budget. That's like, maybe I should have them on my budget. And you brought more of like that corporate professionalism to how to actually like manage a finance of a company, and versus it being like a small time entrepreneur, you were like thinking 5 years ahead. It felt like we're getting this set up not for now, but for when it is an enterprise. And I was like, that's the way it should be done. That makes so much sense, is that we need to think about this as a 5-year business and not, what's working right now. And I appreciate the way that you are such a visionary, and you do see the end goal, not just, the moment that we're in, because as creatives, we're always so focused on the forefront of like what's right in front of me. What is what am I having to do in this moment? And you made it really easy to be like, no, that's not what we're thinking about. We're going to be thinking about 5-10 years down the road when you have 50 books on your shelf.
Yep.
And I just appreciate that, because even though I know that, and that's how I plan out my business, it's always a really good reminder. And the tools that you bring and you brought to it made it a lot easier for me to actually institute it into my business even more so.
Very cool. Yeah, I've always told my kids when they get upset about things, it's like, is this going to matter 3 or 5 years from now? And I do that same thing with business. I don't let things get to me that this is a struggle and emotionally pull me down when it's not going to matter 2 years from now, 4 years from now. Is it really going to affect my long-term dream of where I'm going? If not, then push it aside and move forward.
Yeah, I love that. And it's hard to do that when you're in it in the moment, and you're just thinking, is that going to matter in the long-term goal? And it's a good question. I'm going to put that on my mirror. It doesn't matter.
So, Tony, is there, I don't know if you'll want to get vulnerable about this or not. So when we think of like the model, which is the building your community, developing your craft, mindset, all of the different tool areas, the budget tools, the time tools, the work tools, and then we've got the sales, the production, and the marketing. Which area is an area where you're still growing?
I would say I'm really still needing to grow a lot on the marketing area, but right now my focus is a subset of that, which is the internet marketing, and I'm really honing in on my algorithms of how do I provide a product that once I get started, it will continually work without even any marketing. And I've had some success with it, and I'm growing that piece of my business right now. It's taking more time than I wanted, but rule of thumb for engineering is it's going to take twice as long as you expect, cost twice as much as you expect, and be half as effective. And if you're okay with those three, with it being twice as long, twice as costly, and it's only going to be half effective. If you're good with that result, then move forward. And so really that's my focus right now of where I'm weak at, and I want to continue to grow in.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that. It's an echoed sentiment in our chat here that our members have also just really appreciated your spreadsheets, specifically around time management and that capacity planning. So yeah, all of the tools that you've brought us for organizing, like even from in your craft, even your craft was broken down by a spreadsheet, which is really interesting.
That's just how my brain works. It's very analytical of, okay, what's the steps? I'm a process engineer by trade. And when I find something out, I like to break it down for a process for myself. So that way, if I don't do it for 6 months or a year and I come back, I don't have to relearn it. It's already documented process step by step.
Yeah, I love that. So Chris may have had to step away for a second right now, so we won't go over to him. But I know at some point you may just have to sign off. So I'm so glad you were able to join us today. And for those watching this, Tony is still very much a part of some of our events. So we have an upcoming weekend and he's popping in as our guest coach. He's got a son that lives in the area. And so we get to enjoy his presence for a little bit. But yeah, for now, thanks for popping in with us today. And when you have to pop off, we understand.
I do.
Background. So I'm gonna let, because my dogs are going nutty again, I'm gonna let
Okay,
Tiffany.
it was great seeing you guys, and let's get together, and even if it's an off camera one, let's do some more brainstorming.
Yes, love it. Mwah, we love you.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Tiffany, I'm going to toss it over to you because my dogs are going crazy in the background as always. So,
yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this whole year of doing the Working Writers Mastermind has been such a cool experience. You know, some nonsense background for me is I grew up with kids, like teaching kids. I was a coach for gymnastics and, a daycare teacher for the school, like school agers and stuff. And that part of, loving to fuel a mind that was wanting to learn something had always been there, but it kind of died off when I decided to do other things. And it always remained a little bit with like management and stuff. But when Jerry was talking about the Working Writers Mastermind and asked if I would be interested in being a coach, I was both very excited and then also extremely felt unqualified in the beginning, because I was like, I was like, what could I bring? What do I even know? And I sat down, and I actually wrote things out. Like, I was like, what do I feel like I actually could teach in? And marketing was obviously one that, I had a years of experience in and still continuously was learning and helping other people out with it. And I was like, I could teach people how to do what I do, and see maybe some of the things that I see in the industry. And then I started breaking down the rest of the model and realizing that, okay, maybe I had just enough to to be able to share with everyone. And as I was teaching and as I was doing these courses and as I was learning through Jerry, Tony, and Chris, I feel like I grew just in the sense of planning out my classes and being able to showcase that the experiences and the knowledge that I had. And it made me feel like I was like, okay, I got some knowledge, but I definitely know where the areas that I need to grow are. And it made me even more adverse to, or, acceptable to learning from my other coaches. And so with Jerry, like her event organization and the way that she approaches networking and her craft and her daily productivity was something that I, through these courses, that everyone needs to take a piece and learn from that and go back and watch her courses, because she just, without fail, without a doubt, knows that this is how the business works. She's been in the business for so long in almost every capacity of the writing industry. And so she comes with it with organization and with passion, you know, despite the burnout or the everyday having to show up, having to wake up, having to go to these events. No matter what, she comes at it with such like a fresh mind of like, this is the thing I love, this is the thing I do, this is how I do it. And I learned a lot from that, of just continuously going and wanting to pursue and wanting to stay passionate about learning, about growing, about my craft. And Chris, he is crazy in our bull in a china shop, and I absolutely love his approach, that even in his business, he has never once faltered in his personality, and he still has such acumen and tenacity and ability to teach people how to do this professionally. And I love that he has this perfect balance between it all. And his newsletters are freaking incredible. Like I always sit and I'm like, what do people put in newsletter? I subscribe to a lot of them, but like none of them feel like they say anything, and they're like, I just do it to support people. But with Chris's, they're engaging and they're intriguing, and he makes you want to read them. And I think that is probably like the biggest compliment I could give anyone, because I really don't like newsletters. So I would say, Chris honestly does such an incredible job, and his take on marketing and Kickstarter, and you can learn a lot from, like, our last course. Me and Chris were going back and forth on how we approach certain things, and I learn a lot from that. And anyone should be able to learn from any position of like when you do want to see it from someone else's side or how they approach on things. And I think Chris has such a good head on his shoulders, despite all the craziness that he protrudes. I really appreciate getting to work closer with him in this last year than I might have had the Working Writers Mastermind not existed. So I'm very just grateful for all of that.
I love that. And while we have you in the spotlight, one of the things that has really, that one of the lessons, I mean, like you and I worked together for a year with you as like leading my marketing, and so I had the opportunity to experience that pretty firsthand. But one of the lessons that really stands out for me is when you taught on character development. And I love a good craft lesson, because we get so caught up in the business and, the working writers model, it's all of these, of the 9 steps, only 8 of them are business and in some way. And so, we've got that one craft lesson, and I'm always excited to just be in the art again. And your approach to the way that you do, what's your acronym again for your character building? You have like an acronym. Steal. And so I was like, oh, I've never approached my characters that way. And so it's kind of fun to take and do like a little bit of a different, even if I'm just picking one of the characters from my story, and I'm like, oh, for that character, I'm going to use the steal method now. And I love that I got to get into that. But I just, obviously there are many things I'll talk about, like what I've learned from everybody, but that was one that definitely stood out to me for you. And I appreciated that. And I like, it's so important for us to keep our craft fresh. But Chris's Wi-Fi is a little bit funky right now. So I'm going to hopefully give him a chance to catch his Wi-Fi up or to find a corner in the house where he can kind of chat before we talk about where we go from here. And so in the meantime, you might be able to chat. You might be okay.
I think it was actually Tony's Wi-Fi. Everything was just glitching and
Okay. So yeah, tell us about, what you've learned or where you're still growing in terms of your fellow coaches, in terms of the model, in terms of, and I'll talk about what we all are hoping to leave with our members after we get through this. But yeah,
I mean,
stage is yours.
Still growing. A lot of the same stuff that Tony had said is, I could pretty much just say same. Yeah, it's a lot of the online marketing, and a lot of it is maybe combined with Tony's time management stuff. Sometimes you just got to get down and do it. And sometimes this is maybe just in the extra stuff, because so being on and doing the coaching takes a lot of extra time, as Tiffany was saying. And one of the things, and maybe this is more of a indirect thing that I learned than something just directly taught, was that sometimes I gotta outsource more stuff. So I know, I had a PA, and I recently let her go. So you might have seen my less stuff coming up on my social media, which she managed, but there's other things that she couldn't manage that just were outside of her skill set. So now I'm looking for somebody else where I can outsource that to the person who can do those extra things. So sometimes you got to cut the things that are not working, and then add in outsource it, or add in some other skill set where you have to take a class or learn the thing, depending on how you're looking at whatever the thing is. Yeah.
So that's kind of like segues into one of the things that I've found most valuable in this community, is that, I've learned to sort of lean into those things that I'm really good at and accept that there are some things that are weaker areas for me. But the whole idea of the model is that we have different businesses. And so, like, my social media has dropped off, but it hasn't hurt my bottom line. And that's because that wasn't really where I was doing my business. Like, I do my business through the conventions and through but not the conventions in the sense that, we have to do 47 events in a year, although we've done that. But in the sense that, I'm going to take this one event and it is going to be like the blossom point from which I'm going to get all of my other work, whether that's the anthologies or whether that's, the writing contracts or whatever it is that's like actually the business. And it's okay that I'm not killing it yet with my newsletters, that, Chris, you're great at. It's not my dogs, it's my cuckoo. And so I've kind of learned to, I guess, embrace what I do well and like let go of what I still have to learn or have to do better. And it doesn't mean that I don't try to improve on it, but it's something that I've learned to embrace and just, when I think about that community piece of the model, that building your community, Chris, this past weekend, this is a perfect example, great story. So Chris and I were both at Origins, and I was very discouraged because I was like, my sales were garbage. I didn't love my setup. I was like, what is happening here? I'm like, it was just not working for me. And it was 4:00 on the Friday. So at this point, there were about 2 hours left in the hall at Origins on the Friday. And I was like, I'm redoing this whole display. And I literally was like, I took everything down. And at that point, I had sold literally $300. We were open on Thursday. So that was a day and a half, and more than a day and a half, a day and 2/3 of selling. And I had sold only $300. And this is historically one of my best performing shows. So I took everything down and I'm like, Chris, come over here. Chris is across the aisle from me. I'm like, I'm like, I don't care what you do. Just make it look that better. Something's wrong. And I literally, like, the way that Chris set up my display is not how I would ever set up my display. But Chris is the number one selling live show guy in the US. And he's too humble to say that, by the way, but he is literally the number one live show sales guy in the nation. And so I'm like, Chris, set it up. And he had holes. I don't do holes. Tiffany, poor Tiffany, she knows, like, I am a symmetry, I am a lines, I am a rows. I'm like, it has to, like, she'll put little angles and I'm like, so I that's just how I think. In a lot of ways, I'm like Tony, that I like a little bit of structure, but we put holes. So again, mind you, I had sold only $300 in a day and 2/3. And Chris adjusted my display. I had an hour and a half left of that day, and I sold $200 in that hour and a half. And then the rest of the weekend recovered the show to where it was still, I mean, it wasn't performing where I expected it to perform, because I basically lost a day and 2/3. But it still came out very respectable. Whereas like even a bad Origins for me is still a good show. And so that's where it landed, where it was still a good show in the overall scheme of shows. And I think, Chris, one of the things that I've taken most from you is your humbleness. Because there's this, be humble, be hungry, be the hardest worker in the room. I will tell you, like, all of those are great attributes if you want to be. That's, by the way, a Dwayne Johnson saying, you know.
I was going to say, I was like, I think that's The Rock.
It is a Dwayne Johnson saying, but it's like, it's the saying for his Project Rock, which is a nonprofit foundation. But it's a very true thing. And like Tiffany, she brought the hard work, and like, definitely she's driven and she's hungry and she's working hard. And that's part of why she and I work really well together. But then Chris is like, just there quietly kicking all of our butts.
I love it.
I love it. And he's in the very best way. I have learned so much from you, Chris, in terms of anthology management, and like in terms of like the visual representation of my work. And really the underlying theme of it all is just like your humility, because people don't even know that you're the number one selling guy in the entire country when it comes to live shows, but you are. And that's how you're doing things. You're just quietly, like, just getting the work done. And so honestly, like, there's a community piece that is just really incredibly valuable, that I'm learning from everybody, to be learning from the passion in craft, from Tiffany, to be learning the systems, from Tony, to be learning just the efforts from Chris. That's really great. Stop it. I'm not going to say what Chris just typed in the comments for our video. Nobody's allowed to say it. I'm serious.
Thank you.
Evergreen video. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. You guys.
I'm fine comparing numbers. It's great. It's fun.
It's
healthy competition is fantastic.
All right.
But yeah, I'm not a bragger, so.
Yeah, you're in all seriousness. And some of our members, by the way, I've learned so much from some of our members. We've had a number of members. We've had Ivy and our momager Heather with us really from the beginning. We've had Trista, we've had Chantel, we've had Danielle at one point. We had Nora. Was that her name? And every one of these members has brought, something to us as well. And really just grateful for the learning that I've been able to experience from all of you. But for me, it's really been that story of the rising tide and how we have different models, and that through those different models, we can each specialize, and then we can build around ourselves with the people who are really, really kicking butt in the things that they're kicking butt on. So it's been a great coaching group. It's been a great group of mentorship members as well. And I can't imagine not having had this last year. I had started this like alone, and I did it for 6 months solo. So those of you who are getting those videos or getting that evergreen package, you're getting those 6 months of solo lessons as well. And like it really stepped up when it became a group class. So I'm really grateful for that. So that's what I've got. So now let's talk about where we go from here. I'll let Tiffany kind of kick us off because she's started a page that is exactly her and I right now, and she'll tell you about what our evergreen package looks like.
Yeah. So with our public Facebook group that we have, it is live, it is there, and I can pull up and get you all the link for it.
Well, you know what? I'm going to change the name. When I get rid of the other one, I'll be able to actually change it so it's not some weird number, so that it actually says what it is. So we'll get that email out or because I'll fix that. I can actually even tweak that now while you're talking about it.
Awesome. So what the group is supposed to be is really just a place that we all come together to help support each other, uplift each other, share our writings. If, call for beta readers, if people have the time, ask for advice. It's really everything that we've been doing with the Working Writers Mastermind, but instead of it just being us 4 coaches you're learning from, it's the entire community that's a part of it. And we want to encourage people to have if they want to do like a writers club through there, if you want to do video sessions or whatever, we want people to organize on there and lead on there and be a part of the rising sales. And so that's really what the group is for all of us. Is really just a communal place to continuously learn and communicate with each other and stay up to date on how we're all doing in the industry. For our product, it will be now just a $250 flat package where you get all the videos. Once it's purchased, we will be getting you guys all links to it where you guys should be able to, that are a discount code that'll be able to for you guys to purchase so that way you guys can have access to it as well. But yeah, you guys aren't losing all the videos and losing all the wealth of knowledge just because of the fact that we aren't doing the live sessions anymore.
Yeah, I did just put the link in there. We changed it so it's Facebook groups and it's /WWM community.
I love that.
So it won't let us have it be called Working Writers Mastermind because we have the private group. The private group will be going away, and it'll probably still show because Facebook does that stupid thing where even though it's gone, it still kind of exists.
Yeah.
So, but we are going to basically it's going to have one pinned thing that says this now exists here, and So yeah, I think you had mentioned, and I apologize because I was sitting there changing the name of that one, that this is also going to be something that occasionally in this group we're going to do a live, we're going to do an Ask Me Anything. We're going to, share those extra things. And we still have our retreats. Chris is holding the weekend retreat in the fall. Next spring, we are going to do our first week long. It's actually 5 days, the Working Writers Week, which is going to be you come and you get to actually just, you will leave with your whole business set up, your social media calendar, thanks to Tiffany, your newsletter drip, thanks to Chris, all of your different systems. We're going to have some time management things that are in place, your budget management things that are in place. Basically, you can show up and then you can leave and have as much automated as possible, as much already set up as possible, so that you can focus on doing nothing but building your library and building your community. So that's all still happening. Yep. Thank you for, it's redroseworks.com/retreats, which for now, Red Rose Works is the host site for Working Writers Mastermind. That will be eventually changing. We just need to, it may change like as we're finishing filling it out, right, like over now, but the retreat will still exist there on this page, because that's set up for now right there. But that will be eventually. Right now, if you type in workingwritersmastermind.com, it's going to take you to where Red Rose Works hosts the Working Writers Mastermind information, even though it's for all of us. So I don't know, any of our guests that are with us, if you have anything that you want to share about the WWM as it's closing out its live, feel free to share. Otherwise, I don't think I have anything else. Chris, I don't know if you have anything else, and I'm going to mute again because my dogs have been crazy since I returned after I was away from them for a week.
Yeah. And Heather and Ivy, if you want to join on the screen, we can definitely add you. She says no. No worries. Well, if you guys don't have any questions or any final thoughts or anything, I guess this is where we will end it, and we will say goodbye, and we will see you later.
All right. See you soon, and see you on the road, and see you in the public group. So thank you. Thank you, guys.